following is a CUNY TV special presentation.
Governor Cuomo, it is a true pleasure and honor to welcome you back to ABNY. Last night, I'm sure everyone in this room watched the first presidential debate hosted right here in New York State at Hofstra University. And despite their differences, both candidates emphasized a need to make substantial investment in our aging infrastructure. And they don't have to look any further than our state as a role model of what needs to be done. Under your leadership, Governor, our city and state are experiencing the largest investment in our transportation infrastructure with a record $100 billion in transformative projects like the near completion of the 2nd Avenue subway, the funding of Phase 2 of the 2nd Avenue subway, Tappan Zee Bridge, East Side Access, the expansion of Metro North into the Bronx, and the redevelopment of LaGuardia Airport. Governor, just this weekend when I drove back into the city from the Mets game, I passed LaGuardia, and you can see from the Grand Central the tremendous progress already being made, the demolition and construction that is already occurring. As a matter of fact, I'm heading to Washington this afternoon on a Delta shuttle, and I look forward to seeing up close and personal the progress. I also want to thank you and your administration and the New York State Police, working with the NYPD and the FBI, for your diligence in keeping New Yorkers safe through the bombings last week. It was 2 state troopers who discovered the second bomb on 27th Street. Governor, we look forward to hearing about your plans for more infrastructure improvements around our city and our state, and your vision for New York, building today for a better tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our Governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me take that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sit down, keep eating, please. First to Bill Rudin and the team at ABNY that do so much good work continually. Let's give him a big round of applause and thank him for everything he does. And he's bringing the next generation of Rudins along with Samantha Rudin-Earls. Pleasure to be with you. Where are you, Samantha? All right, we'll give her a round of applause. Eric Rudin is here. And Bill mentioned them, but we had a tremendous team that worked on the project that you're about to hear about. And I just want to once again thank Tom Prendergast, Howard Zemsky, Bill Mulrow, Pat Foy, and a special shout out to Rick Cotton, who has done an extraordinary job in transforming this project into a reality. Let's give them a round of applause. We do have tragic news, the kind of news that you're always afraid of. There was a fire in the Bronx this morning that turned into an explosion. 10 injured, and 1 firefighter has lost his life, 17-year veteran, 3 children, a battalion chief, Michael Fahey. So we remember them, and it's another reminder of the sacrifice that our first responders make, that every day when they leave the house is a day that that family doesn't know if they're ever going to see them again. So keep them in our prayers or thoughts or whatever you deem appropriate. Bill mentioned the debate last night. I was there, had a full view of it, then went to the post-debate party. Those post-debate parties are wild, by the way. You ever went to a good party? Nothing like a post-debate party. I'm curious, how many people saw the debate? Oh, boy. How many people believe Hillary Clinton did best? How many people believe Donald Trump did best? You are all alone. And it's not the first time. Either everyone is wrong and you are right, or my friend, that's okay, we will see. And then you will say what was true. We're very excited about this proposal. I'm going to speak quickly for two reasons. Number one, because I'm excited about the proposal. Number two, because I am a born and bred New Yorker, and we speak very quickly. But there's a lot of information and a lot of good news in New York for this. First, and maybe even more important than the specific project, I want us all to remember today who we are and what made New York, New York in the first place. You know, we come from a particular place and a particular type of person. 100 years ago, the people who built this place really had a determination to build it into a world capital. They were bold people. They were ambitious people building projects that nobody believed would even be possible. They were confident people. They were building when the market didn't exist. This is a picture of them building the 7 train line down Queens Boulevard, when obviously there was nothing around Queens Boulevard. What they were saying is, we are so far ahead of the market that we are going to drive the market. And we're putting in a transportation system where people don't even live now. That's how confident and that's how bold they were. There was nothing that they couldn't do. Subway systems, no height they couldn't reach, no distance they couldn't span. Some believed it was outrageous. This is the Long Island Motor Parkway, which is basically the precursor to the Long Island Expressway and the Northern State Parkway. They were building this parkway in the middle of nowhere on the belief that if they built it, you would see the growth. Some people called that attitude New York arrogance. Some call it an indomitable spirit. Some call it chutzpah. Whatever you call it, it was right. It was that attitude, and it was that boldness that made us who we were. And it worked, and they were visionaries, and we became the greatest state in the nation. And what they constructed has carried us for decades. They knew that growth and development were driven by mobility and access. And what they knew was, if you built an unmatched transportation system, if you had the access for people, then everything would take care of itself from there. The private sector would go if you provided the platform for the private sector, and the private sector platform was the transportation system. And we made New York, New York, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And now we are at the edge of that concentric circle. That's how big the metropolitan area has gotten, and it has gotten there because of the transportation system we built. New York did not just evolve. It was not a natural equation. New York was constructed and designed and built. That's how we got to this place. That growth began 100 years ago. Now, since then, other regions around the globe have caught on. And you see them developing all across this country, all across this world. And in many ways, you see developments that we haven't even thought of here in New York. So the choice is really clear. You either build and grow, or you stay where you are and you stagnate and you falter and you let the world pass you by. And for us to continue to grow, we have to recapture that ambition, that drive, that positive that made us the envy of the world. That's why we proposed on the state level a $100 billion plan to rebuild our transportation system over 5 years. Not to fix potholes, not to repair, not to refurbish, but literally to reimagine, to build anew. What made New York, New York was they were visioning something that didn't exist. They were imagining a reality that they could create. And that's what we have to get back to. That's what the Vice President has been talking about for so many years. Seeing a future and making it happen. And that's what we're talking about today with the Penn-Farley Complex. Penn Station gets 650,000 passengers per day. That is double JFK, Newark, and LaGuardia airports. 650,000 people, more than all the airports combined. It's tripled the capacity that the facility was designed for. And it is not representative of New York. It is dirty, it is dingy, it is dark, and that is not what New York is all about. It's the equivalent of LaGuardia Airport, which has now become a national laughingstock, right? Vice President started it, but now it's almost a joke. When they talk about how far behind we are, they talk about LaGuardia. Well, if you want to talk about LaGuardia, Penn Station is the train version of LaGuardia. It is decrepit, and it's a affront to riders to use it. Well, why are you so negative on Penn Station? Because it's terrible. That's why I'm so negative on Penn Station. And sometimes you have to say what it is. Now, 20 years ago, they announced the plan. And the plan was that we would acquire the Farley Post Office across the street from Pennsylvania Station and expand into the Farley Post Office building and reduce the pressure on Penn Station. That was the plan. Since then, little has happened. There were two problems with the original plan: conceptual flaws and also implementation flaws. The first conceptual flaw was this: the plan was that we would buy Farley, we would rebuild the Farley Post Office into a train hall, and then Amtrak would move from Penn into Farley and leave the Long Island Railroad in Penn Station. Okay? That was the first premise. Second premise was there was no plan to fix Penn Station. So what would you have accomplished? You would have taken Amtrak from Penn, and by the way, Amtrak owns Penn. You'd put Amtrak in a new facility across the street, and you'd leave the Long Island riders in the old Pennsylvania Station. Now, I love Amtrak, but that makes no sense. It makes no sense for anyone. Amtrak has about 30,000 riders. Long Island Railroad has 230,000 riders. Why would we build a new facility, invest all that money, and then the LIRR stays exactly where it was in Penn, and we have no capacity to fix Penn? It made absolutely no sense, but that was the deal from 20 years ago. Also, what they said was that government was going to be the builder. You know, the most important thing in life to know is to know what you don't know. You know what government doesn't know? Government doesn't know how to build. Fine. Then find a different way to accomplish it. Today we're announcing 4 major developments. First, the Farley building will be redeveloped into a world-class train hall, plus retail and office space. The use of the Farley Post Office building, Moynihan Train Hall, has been reimagined from the original plan to house both the LIRR and the Amtrak in the new Farley building. The Long Island Railroad concourses at Penn Station will all be rebuilt and redone by the MTA. Empire State Development Corporation will work with Amtrak to redevelop the other portions of Penn Station, and we have picked, after an elaborate process, a developer builder for the Farley complex. So the Farley Post Office will become the Moynihan Train Hall in the front, and it will include 700,000 square feet of office and retail. The original concept was to have just Amtrak housed there. Now we'll have Amtrak and the Long Island Railroad. There are tracks that are under Farley, so you'll access the actual tracks and platforms through Farley, and they'll be shared by the Long Island Railroad and Amtrak. The new train hall that we're building will be magnificent and will be world class. And New York will not have seen anything like it in decades and decades. In size, it is massive, 250,000 square feet, 10 stories high, 50% larger than the existing Penn Station, larger than Grand Central. Grand Central is 233,000 square feet. This is 250,000 square feet. The train hall's trusses, the original trusses and the skylight, which is magnificent, built in the early 1900s, will be refurbished and remain. The glass arches are phenomenal. There'll be a skylight, which is roughly 1 acre of glass, believe it or not. It'll become a destination in and of itself, state-of-the-art amenities. There's going to be a 70,000 square foot balcony to attract world-class dining and shopping. This will all be high-end. This will be the best of the best. It will have every new accommodation used in any train hall or airport anywhere on the globe. LED display screens to show information and changes, and it will have world-class security. Because as we all know too well, the new security challenges are different than anything we faced before. And we'll have the most sophisticated security system in this facility. Video facial recognition technology, automated video identification of abandoned bags, chemical and biological contamination, radiation sensors, and we'll have a unified joint operations centers where you have federal, state, local officials all housed right there at that facility. In addition to building the train hall, we'll also have retail and office space, 112,000 square feet of retail, 580,000 square feet of technical office space. This is on the west side of Farley, so it's going to be connecting to what we call the new Far West, with all that west side development, Hudson Yards, etc. will now be accessed through Farley. Second, we'll go back and we'll start rebuilding Penn Station. We're going to rebuild the Long Island Railroad concourses first. It's a complete redesign of the underground labyrinth. I wanted to say that they reminded me of the catacombs in Penn Station. They said I couldn't say that, so we said labyrinth instead. But the entire concourse will be expanded. Right now, it's about 25 feet wide, so everybody is channeled in that cattle call area. We'll expand it to over 70 feet wide. The ceiling height is somewhat limited. It's now 16 feet. It will go to 18 feet. But the ceiling will be an LED screen, which will appear as a blue sky with clouds. And this is state-of-the-art, and it really gives you a sense of openness as opposed to being closed in. New digital information systems, the 7th Avenue ticketing hub will all be redone. We're going to have glass walls so you can see everything. The transparency is good from a security point of view. Plus, it makes it a much more pleasant experience. And again, top-flight retail and dining options all through it. Second half of the concourse will be under the Farley building. It's called the West Long Island Concourse. Same thing, all redone, open, LED, blue sky ceiling, and it gives you a sense of openness as opposed to claustrophobia and suffocation that you now get. Not that I want to be critical. Also, there are 2 subway stations at both ends of the Long Island Railroad concourse. They are the most heavily used subway stations in the system. They are also way overdue for rehabilitation. we will rebuild both of those subway stations at the same time. We estimate $170 million to rebuild the concourse, $50 million to rebuild both subway stations. The MTA will handle this Penn reconstruction with a separate design-build RFP for the concourse construction, and it's going to go out today. Third, for the remaining portion of Penn Station that Amtrak now occupies, Empire State Development and Amtrak will work together to redevelop that space. We have a number of design concepts that came in from the RFEI process, and they're going to be pursued. We will also coordinate with plans for what's called the Gateway Project. The Gateway Project are new tunnels from Penn to New Jersey, which will greatly expand the capacity from the west and will bring in more trains, more platforms, so we actually have more capacity within the station. We have chosen a preferred builder, developer for the Moynihan Train Hall. This was after a very elaborate history. This new contract is a construction management contract. It has deadlines. It has incentives for early delivery. It has penalties for late delivery. It keeps government out of the building business. We just have to watch the calendar and administer a contract. It also has an MWBE goal. The Moynihan responses were reviewed by really extraordinary teams of professionals who gave a lot of time and energy to do it. They then went to the full evaluation committee. This is the full evaluation committee. Coincidentally, it also happens to be the runner-up in GQ's Most Sexy Men competition. 3 companies have won. It is Skanska, Related, and Vornado. And we congratulate them today, and let's give them a round of applause. The cost of the project is $1.2 million to build, $300 million for the state to oversee the construction. So it's a total of about 1.6. Where does the money come from? $600 million comes from the developer who pays for the commercial and retail rights for Farley. $570 million from the Empire State Development Corporation, and $400 million from a combination of Amtrak, LIRR, Port Authority, and the federal government. Today, the bidder is selected. Q4, the work begins. January, we want to sign the final contract. 2019, the Moynihan Train Hall will be enclosed. 2020, it will open. The development will create 5,000 construction jobs. They will all be union jobs, and we're proud of that. And that will be the new Penn-Farley Complex. We're not just doing Penn-Farley, and we're not doing individual projects. We are implementing a strategic vision for the entire metropolitan area. So if you look at Penn-Farley, it's part of a $100 billion infrastructure plan, which is the largest infrastructure plan this state has ever undertaken in history. And when you come from the east, we're rebuilding the 2 tracks on the Long Island Railroad. Why? You have to be able to get people in from Long Island without getting in a car and driving on the Long Island Expressway, and you have to make that Long Island Railroad doable for them. Right now, in some sections, there's 1 track, literally on the LIRR. Anything happens, that's the delay that backs everything up. For 20 years, they've been talking about building a 2nd track and a 3rd track. It never happened because of community opposition. We're going to make it happen. You have MacArthur Airport, which is an underutilized asset on Long Island. You have Republic Airport that we're redoing, which is also underutilized. We have a master plan coming for JFK that we're going to announce. We're underway with a new airport at LaGuardia because I'm tired of them teasing about New York as being the end of the pack. We're building an air train from LaGuardia, which will come into Grand Central Station, so it would be a train ride right to LaGuardia, and from Long Island Railroad From Long Island, you can go right to LaGuardia. East Side access. From the north, upstate roads and bridges, we're very aggressively building there. Roads and bridges and airports, the Stewart Airport, same thing, underutilized. Tappan Zee, we're in the midst of construction. We're putting 4 new metro stations in the Bronx, which will open up the Bronx to development like it has never been opened up before. If you look at assets in this city, real estate that's not fully developed, you'd go to the Bronx. You add these 4 metro stations, you're going to explode those areas with possibility and development. 2nd Avenue subway that we've talked about forever. We are now focused like a laser on actually getting it done. Javits Center, we're going to double the size of the Javits Center, an additional 1 million square feet. We have an RFP out for that. Gateway Tunnel coming in from New Jersey, so we have more access coming to New York from the west, and Penn Farley as the hub for all of that. So that's the full plan. And we talk about it in pieces, but it's very important that you understand the context for all of it. And my last point is this. I had a conversation with a great New Yorker this morning, and I talked about this project. And the first response was a skepticism. Well, how do you know you can get it done? And nobody's gotten it done before, and how do you know you're going to get it done? First, this is not a plan. I don't announce plans with caveats. This is what is going to happen. We did the bid, we have a winner, we have the money, we have all the approvals, the legislature has acted. This is happening. The train is leaving the station, pardon the pun. But the cynicism was shocking to me. Shouldn't have been, but it was. How do you know we can do it? How do you know we can get something done? What is happening is we have not done big projects in so long, we are doubting our capacity to do it. We have gotten so accustomed to plans that are announced that never materialize, or government projects that are started but they just go on and on and on, and we believe that's now the norm. That is not the norm. That is not the norm. That's why you have to go back and remember who we are and what made New York, New York. New York is not about the timid, and it's not about the slow, and it's not about the weak, and it's not about the incompetent. We are the exact opposite. We were the bold, the energetic, the outrageous. Everything was confident. Of course we can do it. We're going to build a building taller than ever before. No problem. We're going to build a bridge longer than any bridge has ever gone before. No problem. We're going to build 70 miles of pipe to get water down to New York City. Sure. We're going to build the Erie Canal, 500 miles, with donkeys and men and women. Yeah, no problem. We'll get it done in 8 years. That's who we were. We've gone from there to this, how do we know we can do it? I don't know. I don't know that we have the ability. I don't know that we have the competence. That's what I love about the Tappan Zee Bridge. You don't think we can do it? Go look at the Tappan Zee Bridge. We are doing it. That's who we are in our DNA. And yes, we're going to do this. And yes, we're going to catch up to where we are. And the vice president is right, and they're all right when they say this nation has squandered an opportunity and allowed its infrastructure to deteriorate, where we now have the rest of the world beyond us in terms of development and construction, transportation, etc. We have to get the energy back and the belief back, and we have to make things happen. I'm not announcing plans because they have no credibility. People have to see product. They have to see that Tappan Zee rise from the water. They have to see LaGuardia Airport come up new. They have to see Penn Station after 30 years of walking through hell. Now they're going to walk through a world-class station and go into Farley and say, wow, this is what New York should be. Don't tell me we can't do it. We've done this and much, much more. And that is the blood in our veins, and that is the DNA in our cells. Lou Rudin did not live his life and leave Bill Rudin to be a caretaker of what they did 50 years ago. Bill Rudin was taught, you are the son and daughters of giants. You're going to take what we left and you're going to advance it. Mario Cuomo did not teach me, well, you're going to be the governor and you just keep everything running fine. No, advance the ball. The fundamental responsibility of all of us, as a parent, as a citizen, as a New Yorker, you were given this place. And during your time on earth, you are supposed to make it a better place. You are supposed to improve it. And together we will. Thank you and God bless you.